Hi, my name is Sally Kuno, and this video is a project for English 5 subject. Right now, I will be talking about Pompeii, specifically about the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Of the many eruptions of Mount Vesuvius, a major stratovolcano in southern Italy, the best known is its eruption in 79 AD, which was one of the deadliest. In autumn of 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius violently spewed forth a cloud of superheated tephra and gases to a height of 33 kilometers, ejecting molten rock, pulverized pumice, and hot ash at a 1.5 million tons per second, ultimately releasing 100,000 times the thermal energy of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The event gives its name to Vesuvian type of volcano eruption characterized by columns of hot gases and ash reaching to the stratosphere, although the event also included pyroelastic flows associated with the Pelian eruption. The event destroyed several Roman towns and settlements in the area. Pompeii and Herculaneum, obliterated and buried underneath massive pyroclastic surges and asphalt deposits, are the most famous examples. Archaeological excavations have revealed much of the town and the lives of the inhabitants, leading to the area becoming the Vesuvius National Park and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The total population of both cities was over 20,000. The remains of over 1,500 people have been found at Pompeii and Herculaneum so far, although the total death toll from the eruption remains unknown. Precursor earthquake. A major earthquake caused widespread destruction around the Bay of Naples, particularly to Pompeii on February 5, 62 AD. Some of the damage had still not been repaired when the volcano erupted in 79 AD. Another smaller earthquake took place in 64 AD. It was recorded by Suetonius in his biography of Nero, and by Tacitus in Annals, because it took place while Nero was in Naples performing for the first time in public theater. Suetonius recorded that the emperor continued singing through the earthquake until he had finished his song, while Tacitus wrote that the theater collapsed shortly after being evacuated. Minor earthquakes were reported in the 4 days before the 79 AD eruption, but the warnings were not recognized. The inhabitants of the area surrounding Mount Vesuvius had been accustomed to minor tremor in the region. Pliny the Younger wrote that they were not particularly alarming because they are frequent in Campania. Nature of the eruption. Reconstruction of the eruption and its effects vary considerably in the details but have the same overall features. The eruption lasted for 2 days. Pliny the Younger, author of the only survivable written testimony, described the morning before the eruption as normal. However, he was staying at the Mycenium 29 kilometers from the volcano across the Bay Naples and may not have noticed the early sign of the eruption. During the next 2 days, he did not have any opportunity to talk to people who had witnessed the eruption from Pompeii or Herculaneum, and which he never mentioned Pompeii in his letter. Around 1 p.m., Mount Vesuvius erupted violently, spewing up a high-altitude column from which ash and pumice began to fall, blanketing the area. Rescues and escapes occurred during this time at some time in the night or early the next day. Pyroelastic flows in the close vicinity of the volcano began. Lights seen on the mountain were interpreted as fires. People as far away as Mycenium fled for their lives. The flows were rapidly moving, dense, and very hot, whole or partly knocking down all structures in their path, incinerating or suffocating the remaining population, and altering the landscape including the coastline. These were accompanied by additional tremors and a mild tsunami in the Bay of Naples. One or more earthquakes at this time were strong enough to cause building was over, leaving only ash and atmosphere screening sunlight. Pliny the Younger wrote, Broad flames shone out in several places from Mount Vesuvius, which the darkness of the night contributed in the tender still brighter and clearer. It was now day everywhere else, but there a deeper darkness prevailed than in the thickness night. Sigurdsson, Kastler, and Sparks undertook a detailed stratigraphic study of ash layers based on excavation and surveys published in 1982. They concluded that the eruption unfolded in two phases, Vesuvian and Pelian, which alternated 6 times. At first, Pelian phase projected a column of volcanic debris and hot gases between 15 kilometers and 30 kilometers into the stratosphere. This phase lasted 18 to 20 hours and spread pumice and ashes, forming a 2.8 meters layer to the south towards Pompeii. An earthquake caused buildings in Pompeii to collapse at this time. The following Pelian phase produced pyroclastic surges of molten rock and hot gases that reached as far as Mycenaeum to the west. Concentrated to the south and southeast, the pyroclastic surges engulfed Pompeii with a 1.8 meter deep layers, burning and asphyxiating any living beings who had remained behind. Herculaneum, Pompeii, and Oplontis received the burn of the surges and were buried in the fine pyroclastic deposit, pulverized pumice, and lava fragments up to 20 meters deep. Surges 4 and 5 are believed to have destroyed and buried Pompeii. Surges are identified in the deposits by dune and cross-bedding formation, which are not produced by fallout. The eruption is considered primarily pretomagmatic. Blast driven by energy from escaping steam produced by seawater seeping into the deep-seated fault and interacting with hot magma. Timing of explosion. In an article published in 2002, Sigurdsson and Casey concluded that an early explosion produced a column of ash and pumice which rained on Pompeii to the southeast, but not on Herculaneum, which was upwind. Subsequently, the cloud collapsed as the gases densified and lost their capability to support their solid contents. The authors suggest that the first ash falls are to be interpreted as early morning, low-volume explosion not seen from Mycenaeum, causing Rhetina to send her messages on the right several hours around the bay Naples, then possibly providing an answer to the paradox of how the messenger might miraculously appear at Pilni's villa so shortly after a distant eruption that would have prevented him.